Hi, thanks for watching BibleMountain.com. In 20th century Christianity, we emphasize God's love, grace, and forgiveness. We put a lot of emphasis on what God does for us, particularly the free gift of salvation. Now, those things are true and they're important, but we're also teaching a distorted view of God. You see, God is also very demanding, and He has very high standards. And we see this throughout the Bible. We particularly see it in Exodus 33. God had given a promise to the Israelites that He was going to give them the promised land. But when it came time for them to enter, God told them to go ahead, but He was not going to go with them because they were obstinate and stubborn and sinning. And He wasn't going to go with them because if He went with them, because of their stubbornness and their obstinance, He would have to destroy them. So let's take a closer look at this. Then Yahweh spoke to Moses, "Depart. Go up from here, you and the people whom you have brought up from the land of Egypt, to the land of which I swore to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, saying, to your descendants I will give it. I will send an angel before you, and I will drive out the Canaanite, the Amorite, the Hittite, the Perizzite, the Hivite, and the Jebusite." Okay, so we see a reference here to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob and their descendants, and God had promised to give the promised land of Canaan, to the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And then we see a reference to the Canaanites, and the Amorites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites. Now, if you remember, Noah and his family that came through the flood, Noah had 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Now, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob were descendants of Shem, so that meant the Israelites were descendants of Shem. Canaan was a descendant of Ham. The Amorites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites were subgroups of the Canaanite. And so we see that these 2 groups of people are 2 very distinct people groups. Now notice the word give. God had promised He was going to give the land of Canaan to the Israelites, the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And then notice the words drive out. The Canaanites were the current inhabitants, so God promised He was going to drive them out. Now let's see what this looks like on a map. You see there the land of Canaan. That's the promised land. But the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the Israelites, had spent 400 years in Egypt as slaves. And then at the beginning of Exodus, we read about God delivering them from slavery, and He took them to Mount Sinai. Mount Sinai was probably located in that black circle somewhere. And what we're reading in today's passage is that God is promising to take them from Mount Sinai and take them to the land of Canaan and drive out the Canaanites so that the Israelites can inhabit the promised land. Now let's resume reading there at verse 3. And this is God speaking. "Go up to a land flowing with milk and honey, for I will not go up in your midst because you are an obstinate people, and I might destroy you on the way." Now notice the word obstinate and the word destroy. What God had learned about the Israelites after He brought them out of slavery is that they were very obstinate. They kept rebelling against Him despite all the miracles and the things that He did for them. And so at this point, God was not willing to go along with them when they went into the promised land, else He might destroy them because of their obstinance and their sin. Verse 4. When the Israelites heard this sad word, they went into mourning, and none of them put on their ornaments. For Yahweh had said to Moses, "Say to the sons of Israel, you are an obstinate people. Should I go up in your midst for one moment, I would destroy you. Now therefore put off your ornaments from you, that I may know what I shall do with you." So the sons of Israel stripped themselves of their ornaments from Mount Horeb onward. Notice again the word obstinate and the word destroy. God repeated this idea that He was not going to go along with them to the promised land because of their obstinance and their sin, because He would destroy them on the way. So again, in 21st century Christianity, we talk a lot about God's love and grace and forgiveness, and we put a lot of emphasis on what Jesus did for us and the salvation that we have. And those things are true and they're important. But we're also teaching a distorted view of God. You see, God is also demanding, and He has very high standards. And we see this many times in the Bible, and we see it here in Exodus 33. God had made a promise to the Israelites, and He was going to fulfill that promise. But they were not meeting His expectations. They were not meeting His standards. And so He was not going to go along with them to the promised land because of that. Because of their sin and their obstinance, He would destroy them if He did indeed go along with them. If you haven't joined my Patreon page yet, please do so. First of all, this will give you immediate access to all of my content. It'll also make sure that you don't miss out on any of my content. It will be delivered right to your email inbox. In order to sign up, go to BibleMountain.com, click on Patreon, and there will be a place there to sign up. Once again, thank you for watching BibleMountain.com.